Yeah, I'm at a university just visiting today,
Mm.
and sitting in the library. I have my own room so that people can study on the other side and they're not
Oh,
listening to
really?
my conversation. Yeah, it's my own room. I was going to write something on the board, but there are no markers.
Oh, it's very good.
I know, but I don't have anything to write with. They don't have any markers in this room. They have an eraser, like right here. They have an eraser, but no
Oh,
markers. So what do I do?
no matter.
Yeah,
You know, it's magic.
I
Magic.
know. There's nothing even like clipped on the side or anything. I'm very surprised by that. Usually they have something to write with, but maybe in another room.
Yeah, it's very quiet.
Super quiet, and I actually have light in this room
Mm.
and a really good internet, so I don't have any internet problems.
Yes, yes, very good
Yeah,
connection.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, I'm excited. Today, I think this class is going to be. Last class was very fun. I was
This is
talking to.
this is your last class today?
Yeah, this is the last class for tonight. It's going to be midnight by the time I end this class.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm gonna have
midnight.
to
Is it
tomorrow.
still
Oh
open?
God.
Midnight.
Maybe they close. I'll find out in 1 hour. If I the doors might be closed, I might have to stay. I might have to sleep here tonight. No, I think I'll be okay. But tomorrow I return back to my apartment, Wisconsin. So I'll be home tomorrow night after 1 week. I was out for 1 week, traveling
Is
for
it
1 week.
far from here in this place?
Yeah, I have to fly back, so it'll be about a four-hour flight.
Mm,
Yeah, it's pretty far.
maybe you are tired because
Tomorrow
you
I tomorrow I'll definitely be tired after traveling, definitely.
traveled with the car. No saying that
I know.
driver
Where did I not go this last week?
over midnight.
I was in a park, I was in a car, I was like walking outside, I'm in a library. Just been I've been teaching crazy locations. Yesterday at 2:30 in the morning, I was
Mm,
walking in front of the White House.
mm.
I was walking in front of the Washington Memorial, all of these locations. Hey Sergio, how's it going?
Hi, Heidi. Hi, teacher.
Hey again. So yeah, I was telling Heidi, Sergio, that my vacation in Washington has been really crazy. Last night at 2:30 in the morning, I was walking next to the White House, the Washington Memorial, Washington Monument, I should say.
Ah,
It was very late and it was very cold, and I was
shutdown already finished.
yeah, the shutdown is done. Exactly, the shutdown is finished. So everything is open now. We can go back
Ah,
to the museums and stuff like that. Yeah. Um, it was a good experience. It was very cold though. I had no idea it was that cold last night.
if in Japan like that things happen, maybe we can't sustain that. Japan is poorer than United States.
Well, why? We keep borrowing money. We are also extremely poor. I mean, we have $16 trillion in debt or something like that. It's
Over
ridiculous. I mean,
2 weeks, the government, all things are stopped. Inflation.
we lost so many billions of dollars because of this. It's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
really, there's no excuse. It was political reasons, and many Americans still have no idea. Why
Mm.
did we have this? Who won? Who lost? Why? I mean, it's ridiculous. There is no hope in politics when it comes to some of these issues.
That's politics.
Politics. It's so bad. I mean, politicians, honest politicians are, uh, I don't know, they're so rare. They're rare in the U.S. They're rare in other countries. I think
I've never seen.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe even if people, I think, enter politics for the right reasons, the system makes them corrupt, or the system makes them difficult to, system makes it difficult for them to remain honest. I don't know.
Mm.
I look at the example of places like India, and you have corruption that is just of a different level. Brazil Brazil I'm learning more about with actually after Colingo because so many of the students are from Brazil, and they mentioned how unequal the society is, right? India is the exact same way. China also, yeah.
Former leader accumulated a lot of money.
China, yeah. Russia is the same thing. Russia is also very similar. So, you know, they have an association of countries called the BRIC countries, BRIC, right? Brazil, Russia, India, and China.
Russia, and China.
Exactly, right? And also South Africa, I think BRICS, I think they also include South Africa. And the BRICS countries, I've done a little bit of reading about the BRICS countries, and yeah, of course, they have promise, right? They have growing economies, they're developing countries, but I look at the level of corruption and the level of inequality, and it's staggering. I mean, you know, you have the top, I think only 130 families in Russia control 35% of their country's wealth.
Oh.
Right? Just 135 families control 35%, one-third, more than one-third of the country's wealth, you know. And Putin, you know, Vladimir Putin, for better or worse, many people call him a mafia boss in Russia. You know. China, I don't know as much, but India, I can also say there are families that are dominating politics, you know, family. It's very, very...
Leader Hu Jintao accumulated a lot of money in the Swiss bank. Then New York Times the article appeared. Then after that, Chinese hacker entered New York Times.
Did they delete the article?
No, they hacked New York Times.
Oh, they just hacked it. Okay, as a way to show their strength, I guess, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you know, the United States is afraid of Chinese hackers.
Yeah.
Those Chinese technological, we call it cyber warfare. You know, it's a new frontier in warfare because now you can literally shut down armies using software. You know, if you want, you can do that. So it's a big problem for us.
They have very good technology about hacking.
Yeah.
But very childish.
Well, I mean, like, what was the guy's name? Sun Tzu, right? Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War, right? He said, all warfare is deception, right? If you can deceive your enemy, if you can surprise your enemy, then you can be victorious, you know? Yeah. So anyway, guys, welcome to class. As always, it's a pleasure to have you guys. Today we are going to be talking about a couple of different things. So in the same way that we are talking about hacking, we are going to talk about the black market. So black markets in many developing countries and in many industrialized countries even really threaten the established industry of electronics, right? The established electronics industry, the established telecommunications industry, right? The black market can really cause a lot of problems. Loss of...
Bitcoin?
I'm sorry, how do you go ahead?
About Bitcoin, no?
Well, this isn't exactly Bitcoin specifically, but just in terms of what black markets can do to upset the general industry, the general economy of many of these industries. You know, when we look at profit, when we look at piracy and theft and criminal activity, black markets are really causing a big problem for the smartphone market. And it's not something that really it's not something that can be controlled easily, right? Because when we look at black markets, they operate in the shadows, right? They operate in areas outside police control, outside.
Because the FBI started to investigate the black market using Bitcoin.
Yeah, the FBI is doing a lot, definitely. The FBI, Interpol, I'm sure these international organizations are working to destroy the black market operators, but it's very difficult because a lot of it's so local, right? A lot of it is underground in individual countries, individual cities, and they are very creative, I think, in the way that they operate. So it's difficult to say, or it's difficult for folks to really trace where some of this activity is, coming from.
Yes.
But in any case, guys, let me jump into the grammar real quick. So today we have, the lesson is about am not and did not, right? So when we talk about negation, right? When we negate something, or when we talk about negation, we are talking about denying something or speaking in the negative about something, right? So the two ways that we do this, right? The two ways that we do this is we can use the verb to be, right? So when we use the verb to be, for example, I am, he is, I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, they are, right? In all of these examples, if we want to make this verb negated, if we want to negate this verb, we can simply just enter the word not after the verb to be, right? So I am not going to visit my friends today, whatever, right? Or it doesn't have to be a verb, it can be an adjective afterwards, right? I am happy, the opposite is I am not happy, right? I am busy, the opposite is I am not busy, right? So any of these scenarios, when we negate a sentence, when we negate a statement, we can use, we can insert not and make that the case, right? And it's also the same, so this is just if it's in the present tense, right? If you have a sentence in the present tense, I am not, let's say I am not Korean, right? I can talk about my ethnicity. We can also say the same for the present progressive, right? If we use the present progressive in English, then we have the subject, and then we have the verb to be, and then we have a verb that ends in ing, right? So Heidi is watching TV, right? The opposite of that is Heidi is not watching TV, right? Sergio is driving. Opposite of that is Sergio is not driving, right? So by inserting not between the verb to be and the verb that follows, or the verb to be and the adjective that follows, we can negate these statements, right? Another important thing to keep in mind is many times in English, as I'm sure you guys are aware, we use contractions, right? We use contractions to describe situations. So instead of saying he is not Japanese, we can say he isn't Japanese, right? So is not becomes isn't. Just something to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure you guys know this already, but just something to keep in mind. And then are not becomes aren't, right? So we are Americans, we aren't Americans. We are travelers, we aren't travelers, right? Whatever you guys want to say in these examples. So this is what we see in the first, these are the first two aspects that I want to focus on. Any questions on this so far, guys?
No questions.
No questions. Sergio, are you okay?
No questions.
No questions? Okay, fantastic. So those are the two things, right?
This lesson is easier than the last one, future progressive, future. How do you call it, future?
The future perfect, right?
Yeah, it's easier.
Definitely, the future perfect is much more complicated. So this one is a little bit easier. And then if we think about it, so another way that we can make sentences in English when we talk about the present tense is if we use do not or do and does, right? So I do my homework, he does his chores, right? So the subject and then the verb do or does, and then also another verb right after that. So he does his homework, he does not enjoy Mexican food, whatever. He does not enjoy cooking, right? Whatever the situation. If we want to negate, once again, we put the not between the verb, the do-does verb, and the second verb that follows, right? So in this case, he does not enjoy Mexican food. He does enjoy Mexican food, right? He does not like to travel. He does like to travel, right? Same situation. I think you guys understand the idea. It's not, essentially it's just changing the one word in the construction of the sentences, right? Putting not into the sentence. And similarly, we have contractions for do not and does not, right? So do not, what's the contraction for do
Don't.
not, Heidi, right? Don't. Fantastic, right? So do not becomes don't. And what about Sergio does not? What's the contraction?
Doesn't?
Doesn't, right? Fantastic. So does not becomes doesn't, right? And when it comes to common conversation, we notice don't and doesn't a lot more than do not or does not, right? When we're talking to people, he doesn't like Mexican food. Oh, he does like Mexican food. He doesn't like Mexican food, right? So then the next thing I think that's important to know about. So we looked so far at am not, is not, and also are not, right? And then does not and do not, right? So these are these examples. We can also talk about all of these in the past tense, right? So in the past tense, we would say, for example, so the construction is the same. We have the subject, and then we have the verb to be, right? I was, he was, she was, you were, we were, they were, right? So we were not happy with our food, right? Let's say you're talking about a travel or some trip that you took. We were not happy with our food, right? We were not satisfied by their customer service, right? Whatever the case is, right? So we and then or the subject and then was or were and then not, followed by whatever we want to talk about, right? So Sergio, can you give me an example of a sentence using this construction?
Like she doesn't like to travel to visit her grandparents.
Yeah, fantastic, right? She doesn't like to travel to visit her grandparents, right? What about if we want to use the verb was? If we make it in the past tense using was or were, is it possible to, could you give me a sentence with that uses was not or were not?
That's difficult.
Any sentence, yeah. So for example, Sergio, how about this? I was not going to go to school, right? I was not going to go to school, right?
Okay, they wasn't they wasn't I don't know how to say it. There wasn't like there wasn't there wasn't able to go to church.
Very good, Sergio. But one little thing. Is it they wasn't or is it they weren't?
Yeah, you're right. They weren't.
Exactly, right? Because with they we use were, right? So,
sorry, it's
yeah.
a little late for you in Mexico. Are you Central Time or Eastern Time?
I'm Eastern Time right now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I'm a Central Time, so that's.
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, when I'm at home in Wisconsin, I'm Central Time. I'm same as Mexico
Okay.
City. But yeah, today I'm Eastern. So right now here it's 11:23. Yeah, so they weren't able to go to church. Fantastic.
They
right?
weren't. Okay,
They weren't able to go to church. Exactly. Fantastic. You did a good job, Sergio. I know it's late. You're doing very well, even though it's late. Next part here. So if we look at Heidi, actually, could you give me an example of a sentence using does not? I'm going to change it for you a little bit.
Does not.
Anything that you want to say using does not.
My husband does not stay at home.
Right, my husband does not stay at home. Okay, fantastic, right? So you have the subject, and then you have does not, and then you have the verb. So in your case, your verb was stay. Right, fantastic. And then we can also use, so we looked at the present tense. I am not, right? I am not, he is not, right? Whatever the case is. We also looked at the does not, right? So he does not like to eat Mexican food. He does not like this restaurant, right? Whatever the case. And we can also use the past tense, right? So they were not able to go to church, right? Just like we heard from Sergio. Then we also have this same not and does not example in the past tense, right? But in the past tense, we use did not, right? We use did not for when we are talking about the past tense. So I did not work in the city, right? In the present tense, we say does or does not. In the past tense, we say did or did not, right? I did not do my homework, right? I did my homework versus I did not do my homework, right? So that's another example of when it comes to the past tense, that we can use numerous types of examples to talk about actions that were performed in the past versus actions that were not performed in the past, right? So this is the very last construction. Generally speaking, right, what is the common theme in this lesson? The common theme is we have a subject, and then we have either am not, does not, did not, whatever, right? And then we have a verb after that. So the not is always following the first verb, right? Are, is, does, did, right? These are all, that's the common structure. We have a verb, we have not, and then we have another verb, or we have an adjective or something like that.
So
Yeah.
just to, it's like the subject, the verb, and not. So in English, you have, as in Spanish, you have the subject, then you have the verb, and then you have the not.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You
In Spanish, it's a little different, though, right? In Spanish, the not is usually before.
Oh yes, you know
Right?
better than me Spanish.
No. Él no hizo el trabajo, right? So the no comes before the verb in Spanish.
Wow.
Right? So that's the only difference. But otherwise, yeah, it's the same
You are
order.
right.
It's
You
the
are
same.
right.
It's the same order as in English. The order is maintained, right? The first verb, then not, and then the second verb or the adjective, right?
Okay.
So yeah, that's a great question, Sergio. I like when people use the other languages to understand English because it really helps in terms of the structure. So, any questions, guys, so far about this topic?
No.
Okay, Heidi's good, Sergio's good as well. Okay, fantastic. So let us take a quick look, guys, at the article for today in which we are talking about the black market, right? Specifically, the black market when it comes to scientific technology, and in this case, the technology of smartphones, right? And as we know, we live in a world that is continuously connected by technology, and it's interesting for us to see what happens when we analyze the black market's effect. So let us take a quick look here. I'm going to screen share as well, guys, so you guys can see my screen. That way we can get started in just a sec. Okay, fantastic. So, dear Apple, good luck against the smartphone black market. Right? Last week, Apple introduced 2 new iPhones with new features, including fingerprint recognition on one model and extra password protections. But the new technology is up against a sophisticated black market that has had years to grow and adapt to meet the world's desire for smartphones. To call smartphone-related crime an epidemic is not an exaggeration. By one estimate, more than 4,000 phones are stolen every day in the United States. Last year, the crime rate in New York City rose after years of declines. The reason? 15,000 people reported a stolen phone. Jessica Ingle was one. Her phone was stolen in a crowded bar. I didn't even notice it, she says. They must be experienced or something at doing it without people noticing. The weird thing, Ingle says, is that the thief actually left her wallet in her handbag. Only the phone was missing. It was never found. Officers are doing their best to fight crime, says Pat Timlin, a former deputy commissioner in the New York City Police Department. But the odds are against them. Smartphones are easy to grab, he says, and they're almost as liquid as cash. Tracking the black market. An insatiable appetite for smartphones has turned the black market into a global enterprise, efficiently sending ill-gotten gadgets wherever demand is greatest. But no one has a complete picture of the size or scope of the black market. One can only catch it in glimpses. In a report for NYPD, Timlin found stolen phones changing hands all over the city. We saw bodegas, we saw local laundromats, and we saw back alleys, he says. In March, the California Attorney General announced the arrests of 2 individuals who allegedly paid homeless people to buy discounted phones on a 2-year contract and then shipped the devices in bulk to Hong Kong. There, phones can sell for $2,000 each, 10 times as much as in the States. The accused allegedly took in almost $4 million in less than a year. Larger than thefts. I hate the guys who do this type of stuff, says Mark Rogers of the online security firm Lookout. He is a hacker who frequents forums where information on the black market for cell phones is exchanged. He says that in the global game of cat and mouse, the mouse is usually faster. For example, some European authorities created blacklists where users could report stolen phones and block them from being used again on other networks. But Rogers says criminals quickly realized that by shipping devices to foreign countries. They could easily sidestep the blacklists and probably sell for close to retail price. Law enforcement tends to focus on thefts on the streets and in subways, but Rogers believes police will only make progress when the black market itself is squeezed. He says the security features in Apple's new operating system, like fingerprint ID and the requirement that you enter a password before resetting the phone, are a good start. Ultimately, it would be fantastic if we could get it set up so once a device is stolen, the only value there is from the parts, he says. New York police will be on high alert when Apple's new iPhone goes on sale Friday. Since the first iPhone debuted 6 years ago, they've noticed that every new Apple product comes with a spike in street crime, right? So really crazy, but not really terribly surprising, right? When it comes to the idea that we are looking at in terms of what we have in the world of street crime and in the world of technology. Heidi, what's your reaction to this article? Is it similar in Japan when you have a new electronics item? Do you see more theft?
Yeah, it's very sad. I have many friends in the Philippines. One of friends was stolen his smartphone last year. Philippines is not a rich country, so he worked hard. So finally, he bought his smartphone. But his smartphone was stolen in the subway.
It was stolen in the subway in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And did he ever find out who did it or how it happened?
Not subway, I'm sorry. It's train station.
Train station, okay.
After that, he was very sad. Then he worked on the hard a while. Then he bought another phone. It's a simple phone, not a smartphone.
That's really sad, especially if somebody works so hard to save the money and buy a phone, right?
Yeah.
It's very sad.
He put a lot of data in his smartphone. Even his data was stolen.
Wow, it's incredible. Sergio, is it similar in Mexico? Is there high demand for these goods?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Sergio, yeah.
Yeah, in Mexico, yeah, it's like a big black market of everything you want, from teachers to smartphones, everything you want. And I think that this is the ways used to look at this problem, isn't because in Mexico you have everything that you want let's say in the black market.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I think that is not good for the author of the of the of the of the of the piece. For example, if somebody makes a song, it's not, nowadays you can get you get peanuts if you made a song. So it's not good for the author. I mean, but how can we deal with that? Because we have to democratize, because all these big corporations. You know, they extract a lot of money when you buy. Let me put it simple. If you go to
Mhm.
Mexico to a Blockbuster store, you are going to rent um, a Blockbuster movie for $1, let's say. But if you go on the street, you get it in the half price. So most Mexicans they decide to go to the half price movie. Of course, it's not the same quality, it's not the same audio, but anyway, you have the best movies now. They are looking at in America. No? So so how can we deal with that? People want, they want people nowadays, as we talked about that before. Now we are in a consume massive society. They want to consume. They want to get the best and the newest.
As
So
quickly as possible.
and yeah, added that as quickly and as possible. So you get a formula that is very, very dangerous. No, the newest and then the quickest. People want the best. So what are you going to buy? $1 or $2, let's say a $2 blockbuster, high quality, high definition, high audio, or $1 Mexican black market movie of the last Hollywood show.
Uh-huh.
What do
It's
you
a,
want?
it's almost a no-brainer, right? It's almost a
Yeah,
no-brainer when we think about it.
it seems to me like a wasting war. It's like a wasting war. You know,
Uh-huh.
always people get the cheapest, the bias, the the newest. So it's like this is one of we're talking about before. This is one of the products of our technology we are living now. It's so quickly, it's changing everything. So I'm really very I want to know. I want to live maybe 100 years to see if capitalism they adjust to these changes. It will be very interesting.
You know, I can't say that it wouldn't be exciting to live in 100 years from now, Sergio. It's crazy when we look at. I mean, I like the fact that you mentioned the democratization of society. You know, the level that it has reached is really remarkable. You know, I mean, just now, I mean, you think about streaming videos and streaming movies, it's impossible. Like just 5 years ago, 7 years ago, Netflix, you go on a website, you pay a monthly subscription, and you have hundreds of thousands of movies that are available to you now, right? Just by clicking download, you get the full movie to your computer screen, to your iPad, your tablet, your smart TV, your smartphone, whatever, right? That's one aspect. The other aspect, like you mentioned, was the idea of just the black market offers everything cheaper. I mean, it's a numbers game, right? Why will somebody pay more money for the same or slightly better quality thing? A high definition 720p, 1080p versus 720p. Okay, I can go with 720p. It's okay, if I'm saving some money, right? Not only that, but people don't even pay money. Everyone is downloading illegally from online websites, right?
Mhm.
So,
It's
I mean,
the
yeah,
same
go
as
ahead, Heidi. Yeah.
it's the same as theft.
It's the same as theft, right? Really.
Yeah.
If you are downloading if you're downloading a product, if you're downloading a latest blockbuster Hollywood movie
Mm.
from a
And
website,
if you
you're
buy the black market the cell phone in half price, it means you stole half from the person.
not only that, but you are contributing to the black market, right?
Yes, yes,
When you're consuming the black market, consuming
yeah.
the products from the black market, right? So this is, I mean, it's a never-ending cycle, right? It's a vicious cycle, and part of the popularity of these objects, I think, is they have this quality or characteristic to them that they are from, it's an American product. It's Apple. It's Microsoft. It's
Mm.
Samsung Galaxy S4, right? The brand new phone.
Mm.
iPhone 5C, iPad 5, whatever. I mean, the appeal of these objects adds so much value to them. And even the beginning of this article, the first words were "Dear Apple," you know, good luck against the black market, right? Because I mean, sure, these big corporations, right? Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, Google, right? They can do anything that they want when it comes to. I mean, they can only do so much, I should say, right? They can't control every aspect of everything, right? They like just recently they decided one of my articles, one of my classes coming up, we're going to talk about a very large illegal website that was shut down by the FBI and by the Hollywood industry in the U.S. Right? You can make some gains, right? You can close some websites, you can close some black market outlets, but if you guys go to India, okay, let me just give you an example that I personally saw. When I was in India, okay, I saw a store, a full department store. Sergio, like you were saying, Blockbuster movies. The store had its own building, its own staff, its own everything. Every single movie inside was a pirated movie. And if you saw the design of the DVDs, right? You open the case, the DVD looks just like you buy the $17 Blu-ray from online or from a U.S. store.
It's the same. The same
Yeah,
in Mexico is the same exactly. I live in Monterrey. Monterrey is just 3 hours from the border in Laredo. Usually I go 3 times a year to buy the uniform for my children there. We go there to buy supplies, everything, 3 times a year. Just 3 hours. I have a lot of family living in Texas. And then, but I prefer, I sometimes told my wife, we don't have to go there. We don't have to go to Laredo, Laredo in Texas, because we have everything here in cheaper because it comes from China. It comes from China. China nowadays in Mexico, we have seen nothing compared to Chinese restaurant. It's easier now in Mexico. Strange as it seems, it's easier now in Mexico to find a Chinese food restaurant than a Mexican food restaurant. Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing, guys, amazing. But nowadays, Chinese people you see everywhere. 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't like that. Nowadays, you see Chinese people everywhere. So, so I told my wife, why do you go to Laredo or to San Antonio?
China will conquer all over the world.
I don't know, Heidi. I don't agree with your idea.
Yeah, Chinese people fighting their own people in any countries. Then they get married to the local people. Half blood Chinese. Only half blood, but it's Chinese. They consider it's Chinese. Only 10% blood, still Chinese. It means the Chinese is conquering all over the world.
I mean, I don't like the idea because Mexicans, we are fighting, we're against the French, against the Americans, we are against the Spaniards, everyone. So we are very fighting people. But I don't like the idea because they are like very humble people, they don't talk a lot, they are just squeezing everywhere. But we have a lot of Chinese people in the last 15.
Yeah, even Japanese people are living in any place, but they try to shoot in that place. But Chinese are Chinese, anywhere Chinese.
Yeah, so we have to now talking about different. We are talking about the same different generation. We have to deal with this now. China is going to be a superpower. I don't know.
Yeah. And even Americans came to Japan, they are living in Japan. They love the Japanese culture, so they try to shoot Japan. So that point is much different.
Yeah, Chinese guys. Just to interject quickly, my 2-second opinion, which is not going to be 2 seconds. If you guys know me, I talk a lot, right? Chinese, the Chinese culture is for me as somebody who has never been to China but who is observing kind of what's happening, just like you guys. The Chinese culture, the Chinese products don't have that level of finesse, that level of quality that I see in Japanese products or Korean products, right? That I think is the biggest disadvantage to China's growth is people still think of Chinese goods as being mass-produced and cheap, right? Whereas the Japanese products are seen as much more quality, German products, Japanese products, as quality over quantity, right? China seems to be quantity first and then quality after. So if China it develops an economic strategy that is more like Japan, like Singapore, like Germany, I think they will do very well in terms of just gaining consumers, But I think we might be past that point, Sergio. I think China has already, I think somebody did an experiment once. Can you live without items that are made in China? And he failed. He wanted, yeah, go ahead,
Before
Heidi.
Indian guy appeared in the TV, he talked about the products Chinese and Japanese.
What don't they make, though? What don't the Chinese make, right?
He said Chinese people know about that Japanese product is very good. Endurance is very good. If Chinese product is last, for example, 8 years, I know Chinese product is very bad. Maybe it breaks in 1 year, but very cheap. I want to buy immediately, so I choose Chinese.
Yeah.
Indian idea, he said.
It's cheap, it's affordable. The people in India and Brazil and these other countries, they can afford Chinese products and Chinese electronics, appliances, because it's affordable, that leads to the appeal. But, yeah, go ahead, Sergio.
But I think that this is the greatness of China. This is the greatness of China because they discover a niche, a small place where they can make business, and they did it. Okay, let's do. Okay. People who have high incomes, they can go to. Of course, that I prefer Japanese ID. I prefer Japanese. I prefer if I just bought a 4 inches TV screen, a big screen, and I say Sony. Sony is the best one because you have guarantee, you have everything in Sony. Then my second option, it was a Korean LG, LG or Samsung. Okay, but my first option was not American, was not German, was Japanese, because they, that here in Mexico, at least in Mexico, if you have a Sony appliance, any appliance, even the small one to the big one, if you go to the Sony appliance, they give you another one, new one. Easy, as I put it, in Mexico. I think so. If you told me a Chinese, no, forget it. I will never buy. I think they are making cars. Imagine a Chinese car. Imagine driving a Chinese car. No way. I'm still the whole Ford, the old GM, the old the old Japanese models, but imagine a Chinese. So I think that they discover like a sector of the world that they don't have too much money, they don't have, and they make a lot of products,
They conquered that market, right? Completely conquered that market. If you go even in military technology, right? So I'll give you guys just a quick example. The United States is extremely afraid of China's military capabilities.
Really?
They have so many ambitions, right? So did you guys hear about? Okay, so everybody heard of Osama bin Laden, his when he was attacked and he was killed and everything happened, right? He was captured, right? So what was interesting was one of the two helicopters that crashed when they were trying to kill him, when they were trying to capture him. Actually, they wanted him killed. But as one of the helicopters crashed, in Pakistan, right? We weren't able to. The U.S. military was not able to retrieve that helicopter, right? It crashed. It was on the ground. It was on the ground even after we left, right? So people say, what happened to that helicopter? They said the next day Russia and China came and wanted to see it. Right? What is this? What is this secret? What is this secret helicopter, American helicopter that was, that has all this technology that the radar didn't catch when it was flying close to the city where Osama bin Laden was, right? I mean, it's a very crazy situation, right? There is an arms race, even if it's a silent arms race or a silent tension. There is some tension between the United States and China in the military perspective, right? China is now releasing, or has released, or will release, there were photos of their new stealth fighter jet, right? 5th generation stealth fighter jet. America, we looked at it and we said, okay, this thing might be something that is 20 years behind technology, but who knows, they can catch up. They might be able to catch up. We don't have any ideas. They have aircraft carriers. China is making their first aircraft carrier, right? And in the world of aircraft carriers, the United States is the unrivaled leader. We have like 25 aircraft carriers, some enormous number. China makes one. How many years before they can make 5? How many more years before they can make 10? Right? I mean,
Japanese Shinkansen is very famous, a rapid train system. China wanted to have a rapid train system, so they ordered only one Shinkansen. Then Japan brought it. They bought only one. Then they made same things, many same trains.
I mean, that's the thing, right? They are very good at manipulating and creating, duplicating, and making products. They are very good at creating things. Even if the quality is not good, they have mastered the art.
That the new train system started. They said it's Chinese.
Yeah. So the U.S. is worried. We are worried in the sense that they pose a risk to America's dominance, right? They pose a risk to the U.S. dominance of the world. Yeah. Military-wise, especially. I mean, they're hackers. They're scientists. A lot of that stuff is worrisome to us. But honestly, yeah. Go ahead, Sergio.
But I have to say that the American system is one of the most brilliant systems in the world. I know you have a lot of loopholes and everything, but anyway, the American system, as you are American, you say, and you know that the American system has a lot of strengths, and one of them, is this kind of, you are a product. We talk about the product. You come into this system and you are now a product, and you can say another thing about the world. The Chinese system, they don't have this. They are very closed system. So I think really a great advantage of American system is that you incorporate Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans and Colombians and Irish and Italians and Bangladesh people, from Filipino people, from all over the world, and you do mix together. This is one of the strengths. And China, they don't have this.
Yeah.
So I think you have to rely on this expertise of all the countries.
Absolutely. We have the innovation, right? We have the innovation, and we have the drive, right? Because countries of immigrants, right? America is a nation of immigrants. There are a lot of
Hi.
You take the best and the brightest people from all over the world, you give them a home and their ability to, good scientists, good thinkers, and innovation, technology here, a young person, like look at Colingo. Colingo is a company made of, young people who just, they have an idea and they created an idea, right? Now they have a company, right? So this idea of creating startups, innovation, technology, using your mind to come up with creative solutions, right? China still needs to work on that, I think, right? I think that's a very powerful. Yeah, Sergio, thanks for mentioning that. Heidi, any thoughts about what we were saying? Heidi, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
China
Yeah.
has a very good technology to create the very cheap things. But even India is the same, right? For example, Tata Sport, Tata
Yeah.
car,
Ta
automobile,
Tata Motors, yeah. I mean,
very
but the
cheap.
thing is, they are focusing
Incredible.
on the Indian market, though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I think their focus is still on creating like the Tata Nano. The Nano
And
is the world's.
iPad, like iPad, and $100.
Yeah, yeah. They have technology that is limiting. They want so. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Heidi.
$70, maybe $70 or $80.
Yeah, a very
iPad.
cheap tablet, a very cheap tablet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that they are making. But see, the focus on India is really to create products that Indians will buy. I mean, India is the world's largest market economy. So 1 billion people, if you can sell a $50 item to 500 million people, you are, that's $1 billion company, right? So, I mean, that's why they are very interested in catering to the Indian population. They have the specialized small Indian car, specialized Indian tablet, right? In terms of broad appeal, India is maybe decades behind China.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
Indian medicine, very cheap.
Indian medicine is very cheap, but it's not
Yes.
always it's not always very trustworthy medicine. Sometimes it has components in it that are unhealthy. It's not always safe medicine. Um, but India is trying, right? India is trying because a very similar situation, right? Like China, huge population, but we are not communists. Like I think that helps us because we have a market economy. We are a democracy to a certain extent, so that definitely helps us. But corruption is rampant in India, absolutely rampant. The safety situation is getting. I mean, it's not the safest country for people either to invest in economically, socially. There are many many problems, but it's there's hope. There's hope in India as well. So I can't be 100% pessimistic.
Just I want to say just a small word about we were talking about the last session
Mhm.
about these schemes, these two different views of you told me, and I was thinking about how this persistence of the war how do you call it, between Russia and the States, the Cold War,
The Cold War, the Cold War.
and how this vision in international relationships has deeply go into all the fields of. Still we have, you said, this vision of two of the, and I think it's because it's one of the most brilliant, I have to say, brilliant ideas that have come up, with McNamara and all these guys, in the
Hmm.
Second World War. McNamara, the Senator McNamara, and I think this is very brilliant. You say you have two bands, you have the bad guys and you have the good guys, and we try to reproduce that in the in Bush era, between the evils and the good ones, and I think it's very we can get rid of this two Cold War scheme of because it's very brilliant, it's very clever, it's very nice, it's very soft. It's very easy to understand to the
Hmm.
vast majority of the people, the bad guys and the good guys. And nowadays, globalization makes us think a more complex world, as you know, more complex because you have not only you have Brazil, you have China, you have Japan, of course, Haiti, you have Saudi Arabia, and how do you mm, put all together this formula, these ingredients, and mix together. So I think that really uh, um, the old the old way of thinking the world of the from the good bus and the bad one has to be nowadays has to be changed by another. But I don't know how to do it, of course, because I'm part of the old generation. I was born and I was bring up in that Cold War situation, so I don't know.
Yeah, it is brilliant, McNamara and all those senators, right? So all those Cold War senators and the Cold War worldview, right? That the idea of thinking about the world as Soviets against the free world, or the communists against the free world, and the Reds against the Blues. I mean, this situation is still, when we think about how it's impacted us, what did Bush say? Bush said, you are either with us or you're with them.
Yeah,
Right. So he didn't really try to hide the fact that it was us versus them, left versus right, west versus east kind of scenario, right? But even in the Bush era, 10 years ago, 13 years ago, he was, what did the internet do and what did globalization do? Before there was a monopoly on information, there was a monopoly on how people got information, right? You had to hunt to find the correct information. You had to read books. You had to research through many different ways, right? With the way that the internet has really equalized everything, so that now if I want to read a Mexican newspaper, or if I want to read Al Jazeera, or if I want to read an Indian newspaper, it's only a few clicks away, right? I mean, so, and not only that, I don't care about the newspaper or about the press, because the press can still be controlled and the press can still be far from free. But I can directly communicate with somebody living in Monterey, somebody living in Osaka, somebody living in Africa, right? I can get the people's perspective. I don't need the official perspective. I don't need to do anything except for connect myself with other people if I want to find out what is actually happening, right? So citizen journalism, right? I mean, blogs, Twitter accounts, all these things, we have empowered the individual,
yeah.
right? Instead of empowering groups. So brilliant, brilliant, Sergio. I think you absolutely captured the essence of the conversation as well. And we can only wait and see, right? One of the things I don't like about technology is that sometimes we hear too much of the negative, right? We hear a lot of the like this article about black markets and smartphones and all that. But there is so much to gain from using technology as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the ability, the possibilities are endless, in terms of what we can achieve.
Yeah, I just want to say that just in this hour, I learned a lot about Japanese, Chinese, and U.S. and American, and myself about myself. That I'm amazed. Without internet, without Colingo, without I don't know if Skype technology, I don't know,
Hmm.
but without this technology, now you have given me something. You have given me something. I'm going to bed now because I'm a little tired now.
No, it's late. Yeah.
It's 11 p.m. here in Central Time.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy,
Yeah.
Heidi and Farham, just this exchange of experience, and I think this is going to. I don't know how come, but you are Farham, the new generations, I the old ones. But anyway, but you are the new generation. You know how to use these tools to try to make a change in this world.
Sergio, there's no new and old generation. You are also living in this era. You are as part of this movement as all of us. So,
Thank you.
yeah, that's the biggest thing. And whatever we can do, I believe individually we can change hearts and minds by doing what we are doing. It's by speaking with each other. There's no barriers. You guys can ask me anything. I can ask you guys whatever, right? I don't need to go through somebody else to find out what is going on. And that's the beauty of the internet. That's the beauty of what we're doing. So, absolutely, let's open borders. Let's open hearts and minds by doing what we're doing. So, yeah,
What do
awesome.
you, Heidi? How do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, Heidi, thank you always. I love our conversation. Sergio, you should join more. Maybe you can join some of my morning classes. Starting next week, I'll have classes in the morning around 8 and 9 Central Time, as well 8 and 9 a.m. Central Time, as well as every night from 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. Central Time.
I
So
will be there.
yeah, I'll have lots of classes, Sergio. So you should watch out for those. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty, guys. Have a great rest of the night. A pleasure as always, Sergio,
Okay,
once again, and Heidi
thank
as
you very
well.
much. Good
Yeah.
night.
Heidi, bye, Heidi.
Yeah.
Good night.
Take
Bye,
care.
teacher. Bye, teacher.
Bye bye.
Take care, Sergio. Goodbye. At 2:30 in the morning, I was walking in front of the White House. I was walking in front of the Washington Memorial, all of these locations. Hey Sergio, how's it going?
Hi, Heidi. Hi, teacher.
Hey again. So yeah, I was telling Heidi, Sergio, that my vacation in Washington has been really crazy. Last night at 2:30 in the morning, I was walking next to the White House, the Washington Memorial, Washington Monument, I should say. It was very late and it was very cold, and I was
Shutdown already finished.
yeah, the shutdown is done. Exactly, the shutdown is finished. So everything is open now. We can go back to the museums and stuff like that. Yeah. It was a good experience. It was very cold, though. I had no idea it was that cold last night.
If in Japan like that things happen, maybe we can't sustain that. Japan is poorer than United States.
Well, why? We keep borrowing money. We are also extremely poor. I mean, I look at the example of places like India, and you have corruption that is just of a different level. Brazil I'm learning more about with actually after Colingo, because so many of the students are from Brazil, and they mentioned how unequal the society is, right? India is the exact same way. China also, yeah.
Former leader accumulated a lot of money.
China, yeah. Russia is the same thing. Russia is also very similar. So, they have an association of countries called the BRIC countries, BRIC, right? Brazil, Russia, India, and China.
Russia, and China.
Exactly, right? And also South Africa, I think BRICS. I think they also include South Africa. And the BRICS countries, I've done a little bit of reading about the BRICS countries, and yeah, of course, they have promise, right? They have growing economies, they're developing countries, but I look at the level of corruption and the level of inequality, and it's staggering. I mean, you have the top, I think, only 130 families in Russia. Yeah, I'm at a university just visiting today, and I'm sitting in the library. I have my own room so that people can study on the other side and they're not listening to my conversation. Yeah, it's my own room. I was going to write something on the board, but there are no markers.
Oh, it's very good.
I know, but I don't have anything to write with. They don't have any markers in this room. They have an eraser, like right here. They have an eraser, but no markers. So what do I do?
No marker.
Yeah.
It's magic.
I know. There's nothing even like clipped on the side or anything. I'm very surprised by that. Usually they have something to write with, but maybe in another room.
Yeah, very quiet.
Super quiet, and I actually have light in this room, and a really good internet, so I don't have any internet problems.
Yes, very good connection.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited. Today, I think this class is going to be. Last class was very fun. I was talking to.
This is your last.
We have $16 trillion in debt or something like that. It's ridiculous. I mean,
2 weeks, the government, all things are stopped.
We lost so many billions of dollars because of this. It's ridiculous. I mean, really, there's no excuse. It was political reasons, and many Americans still have no idea why did we have this, who won, who lost, why. I mean, it's ridiculous. There is no hope in politics when it comes to some of these issues.
That's politics.
Politics, it's so bad. I mean, politicians, honest politicians are, I don't know, they're so rare. They're rare in the U.S. They're rare in other countries. I think
I've never seen.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe even if people, I think, enter politics for the right reasons, the system makes them corrupt, or the system makes them difficult to, system makes it difficult for them to remain honest. I don't know.
Class today?
Yeah, this is the last class for tonight. It's going to be midnight by the time I end this class, so yeah, I'm going to have to tomorrow.
Oh God.
Maybe they closed. I'll find out in 1 hour. If the doors might be closed, I might have to stay. I might have to sleep here tonight. No, I think I'll be okay. But tomorrow I return back to my apartment, Wisconsin. So I'll be home tomorrow night after 1 week. I was out for 1 week, traveling for
Is
1
it
week.
far from here in this place?
Yeah, I have to fly back, so it'll be about a four-hour flight.
Mm,
Yeah, it's pretty far.
maybe you are tired. Because
Tomorrow I'll definitely be tired after traveling, definitely.
because you traveled with the car. I'm not saying that.
I know.
Driver.
Where did I not go this last week?
Over midnight.
I was in a park, I was in a car, I was like walking outside, I'm in a library. I've been teaching crazy locations. Yesterday